Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Today is May 18th, 2026. Thank you for coming to today's Community Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Michael Ross. I'm the Director of Stakeholder Engagement for the NYCHA Federal Monitors. We are here at NYCHA's office at 90 Church Street. There is also a Zoom link for remote participation. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and we will post a video recording on the Monitor's website at www.nychamonitor.com. There's an attendance sign-in sheet for those here in person, and we will post the list of attendees for the meeting online afterwards. Today's agenda, also please, if you have a cell phone, please make sure to silence your phone. Today's agenda will focus on safety and security at NYCHA, particularly around issues of trespassing and homelessness, as I will describe further momentarily. We will begin with brief introductions of our attendees, starting with our resident members, and then introductions from the many guests we have here today. Thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to be here. After introductions, I'll start with brief remarks, then we will turn it over to the resident members of the committee for their comments. After that, we will have time from our guests from various city agencies to speak. After that, we will then have resident member Q&A. Time permitting, we will allow questions or comments from any residents who are not on the CAC for 1 minute per person. If you are a resident guest who would like to speak, come please sign a sign-in sheet to do so. If we do not get to you as a resident guest, rest assured your comments will go into the record. We will be keeping the record of the meeting open to allow for resident guests to put their comments in the record. We will post them all on the Monitor's website along with a record of the meeting. With that, let's now just have brief introductions limited to your name and affiliation. This isn't the 3 minutes of opening remarks, just name and affiliation. I'll then provide some brief remarks and we'll turn it over to the resident. So, Mr. Hall, starting with you.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Hall. I come to you with 24 years of TA experience. Glad to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel Gross, President of Williams Plaza Houses.
Novelino, resident Gowanus Houses.
Good afternoon, Janice Fonsu, Department of Homeless Services.
Good afternoon, Estelle Stryker Santiago. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Partnerships Unit for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia Mienza. I supervise community engagement at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Hello, Teresa Shanahan from the Queens District Attorney's Office. I'm the Executive of Criminal Practice and Policy.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Marlon Palacios Jr., Senior Community Coordinator for the Community Engagement Unit at the Queens County District Attorney's Office.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Howard Gottesman. I work for the NYPD for the Chief of Housing.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Melinda Alexis Hayes, Special Counsel for Public Engagement at the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office.
Good afternoon. James Secreto, Vice President of the Office of Public Safety for NYCHA.
Good afternoon, my name is Damon Hart and I'm the Bronx Organizer for the Office of the Community Liaison. I'm filling in for my supervisor, the actual Community Liaison, Jermaine Thompson.
Good afternoon, Eva Trimble, NYCHA's Chief Operating Officer.
Good afternoon, Neil Borowski. I'm one of the two co-monitors.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt Cipolla, the other co-monitor.
Thank you, and I believe we have some remote participants, maybe leading with Ms. Tibbs, and other remote participants could please introduce themselves.
Cynthia Tibbs, President with Sir Brownstones.
Thank you, Ms. Tibbs. Are there other remote participants who'd like to introduce themselves?
Hi, this is Sawaiba from Manhattan Borough President's Office. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll take note of the other remote participants as well who are attending the meeting remotely. Okay, again, thank you everyone for coming. Let me start with some introductory remarks to frame our discussion before I turn it over to the residents. As our resident members know, at each CAC meeting, we reserve time to discuss safety and security issues. And that agenda item covers a variety of issues on which Chief Secreto presents. And thank you, Chief Secreto, for participating in each of these meetings so actively. And although we hear about many types of safety and security concerns, one that comes up again and again is the concern about enforcement of rules around trespassing on NYCHA grounds, and particularly about the impact of homelessness on NYCHA property, as well as the impact of trespassers who engage in drug dealing or other illegal activities. CAC meetings have not been the only forum in which the monitors have heard concern about these issues. The monitors have received dozens of phone calls and emails during the monitorship about them. The monitors dedicated this CAC meeting to safety and security out of a commitment to one of their core values, which is namely to have a resident focus. In conducting today's discussion, that focus on residents means we will prioritize the resident perspective on this issue and flip our usual script of having NYCHA present by instead hearing first from resident members about these issues. The monitors also chose the topic today to promote transparency, another core value of the monitorship. We hope that each stakeholder here today can participate in an honest conversation to allow for transparency about the successes and the challenges they face and what can be done to improve the safety and security for NYCHA residents. We understand that solutions here may not be easy and may require cooperation and collaboration of NYCHA residents and various city government agencies. We understand that each stakeholder brings their own perspective, and we want to keep those out in the open and discuss them honestly. Today is not intended to be a last conversation on this issue, but part of an ongoing discussion. And thank you all for taking time out of your schedules to be here. We look forward to a productive dialogue. With that, I'll turn it over to resident members. You'll each have 3 minutes to speak to start. Please use the time as an opportunity to explain how the issues I mentioned affect you and those in your development. We will have an opportunity for specific follow-up later in the meeting. For now, this is an opportunity to frame how you see the issues and what you'd like to hear a response on. After the resident remarks, we'll then have remarks from the various city agencies. So with that, Mr. Hall, I'll turn it over to you to start. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Chief Secreto, and it's not like I want to put you on the firing lines. However, I happen to reside and been president of a development that has really prospered over numerous years. The crime prevention team in the 47th precinct has really assisted us, along with PSA 8, in reducing crime. Homelessness has been vastly, it barely exists in Gun Hill houses. All right, we've gotten to the point now where our issues deal with quality of life. All right, we have residents who now have dogs, you know, and the dogs are defecating on the premises. We have the proper utilities in order for people to clean up behind the dogs. However, there needs to be more accountability within the scope of the residents regarding the waste from the animals. This is something that I never thought that I would get to mention, because I had so many other numerous issues that were much more necessary. So at this point, I kind of want to deal with quality of life. We have to get the residents, through the law department, to hold residents in NYCHA accountable for their dogs. That is the first and foremost, and it's not major, but it's something that is necessary in developments that have prospered to any degree whatsoever. So that's something to take into account. Regarding the PSAs, and I just happened to be the chair of PSA 8, but they've been very helpful. They just received a standing ovation from the residents because police presence has always been available, at least in the Northeast Bronx. So, I'm very happy, which is why I don't harass you, because as far as public safety is concerned, people have been preserved, protected, and I can go so far to say I don't live in fear. That's all public safety is really about, so I can commend you on that, but like I said, from my understanding, the law department has to get more involved to hold residents accountable. And PSA's 8, they can enforce it if there's a meeting of the minds.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mic on? Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I, walked the development, certainly when we were doing the Amazon Locker pilot, we walked your development, and that's a big problem. I think I've seen like 2 people cleaning up after their dogs and like walking hundreds of developments. And I used to be a precinct commander and a PSA commander, as you probably know, and at that time we used to give summonses. And I'm not saying you gotta give 100 summonses, but maybe if you gave 1 or 2, the word would get out, hey, PD is giving summonses for not cleaning up after your dog. But I think they kind of gotten away from that, and for whatever reason. But it is a problem, and I think it could be handled administratively, call people down, give them a 185 letter, we saw you didn't pick up after your dog. But again, it's difficult, and I don't know, the police department's here, maybe they should speak to that, if they could do that or not. But when like I said, when I was a commander, the guys would give a summons for not picking up after your dog or not having your dog on a leash or whatever, but that's not really done anymore. So,
Thank you, Chief Secreto. And then, Mr. Hall, just in terms of the format, just so everyone has a chance to give their opening remarks first, we're going to hear from all the residents, and then we'll have plenty of opportunity for the Q&A on the issues.
Fine.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
Mr. Gross, please.
Good afternoon. I would like to raise a couple issues since I'm on the community board from Brooklyn on public housing. So I got information from a lot of NYCHA developments on public safety. The number one issue is people are thinking public housing is public property. You're gonna see people who doesn't even live in NYCHA, 2-3 blocks away, they will come to NYCHA property, do parties in the middle of the night, hanging out. They're using NYCHA property for everything. One of the issues is what's inside the building is like homelessness. You hear it all over. The problem is, the number one issue is the doors, usually the lobby doors are broken. It's broken a lot of times because a fire department has a fire or medical emergency, or the locks are broken. So what's happened is, once the door is broken, it's probably open for 2 months till it's getting fixed. This is a invitation for homelessness, for criminals to use the building. So I know, Chief, I was working with you, our development. I designed my building. Every single NYCHA development has a key for the postal service to go in. They're using a key. USPS is using a key to come in. I attach a FDNY key next to it. We have USPS, then you have right behind a fire key. That mechanism is probably $50 or $30. It's the same key for my elevator. Every FDNY has an elevator key. So we have this already 5 or 6 years. We never have a broken lobby door from FDNY. We can have like the regular wear and tear, but we never have an issue from FDNY is busting out doors and is open for weeks, a month. That is key number one to keep our building safe and secured. Number two, I'm thinking every single development should have backup locks in stock. If the door is broken, you have glass, you have locks, or NYCHA should have a system like a boiler or a hot water 24-hour service. We should have a vehicle or one of the departments of safety and security. If a lobby door is busted, They should even come in the middle of the night, let's fix it. That's gonna prevent a lot of issues from a NYCHA development. Number two, we was putting on no trespassing signs. We partnered up with a couple NYCHA developments. What's happened is we put on the one development, everybody started to go to the second, to the third. So we was taking in North Brooklyn, in Williamsburg, we have a couple NYCHA developments. We put on a no trespassing signs. This is the NYCHA laws. What is on that? We were seeing a significant reduction from crime. NYPD PSA 3 went around and say for the residents, you see the signs. So we was making sure every single entrance to our development, they can see the sign. So nobody will say, oh, we walked by, we was not seeing the sign. The sign is 30 inches by 24. It's nice and big. By nighttime, it shines. Everybody can see it. This was helping. So when the NYPD goes around and patrolling, they say, look, the parks is closed at dogs, no barbecue. So they're just showing the signs. That makes the NYPD officers a lot easier to address the issue. NYPD was doing very good when they was having NCOs, patrols in our development. Right now with the Q teams, multiple developments complaining they don't see officers, they don't see vehicles in the building, they don't see nothing. Right now a lot of people is afraid, summer is coming, and we need to have the enforcements. They should do, and police presence, we should see them in our development throughout the city. I'm not talking specific developments, it's general. And if I think I would like everybody should review the letters, if we should agree on the language, if the language okay, I think NYCHA should put in that policy the no trespassing throughout all NYCHA developments, because the word has to go out in public. It's not a public property, it's a private properties, public housing is a city service, it's not public, everybody can come, urinate, sell stuff over there, sleep over there, you find needles, you find everything over there. I think that will help with enforcement in combination with NYPD and the district attorney's office.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Ms. Lino?
So I must not understood the assignment, but I'm coming on behalf of the different developments that I have visit. So I'm not on the board or anything like that, so I'm just going to speak on the behalf of the residents. So over time, I've heard the same message repeatedly, that public housing residents' voices matter, and that NYCHA wants to work in partnership with the residents. Unfortunately, the experience of many residents tells a very different story. Too often, important decisions are made without a meaningful input from the people who live in public housing. Residents are the ones who deal with the unsafe conditions, broken systems, and security concerns every day. Yet they are frequently excluded from the decision-making process. Why aren't residents given a seat at the table when decisions are being made in their own communities? NYCHA's Office of Safety and Security is a responsibility for protecting developments and facilities. Their duties is to include monitoring and surveillance of cameras, controlling the building access, investigating incidents, supervising security personnel, and coordinating with law enforcement and other agencies to keep the residents and the staff safe. But the people who know best what is happening in developments are the residents themselves. Over the years, many NYCHA employees I've heard say, I am a product of public housing. That statement should carry meaning. It should reflect a commitment to giving back to the communities that helped shape them. My question is simple. What have you done in your position to improve the lives of the public housing residents? They are employees who have lived in public housing and now work for NYCHA. Some continue to advocate for the residents while others appear to have lost their voice in exchange for a paycheck. Remaining silent in the face of injustice and creating unhealthy environment, not only for the resident but the employees as well. Silence can take a toll mentally, emotionally, and physically. I have listened to numerous of public housing committee meetings where residents and elected officials has testified that ongoing lack of safety and security. Strong, knowledgeable leaders live in public housing community across New York City, yet they are often left out of the conversation when decisions are being made. I recall listening to Leroy Williams on January 13, 2021, stating during a public housing hearing that residents know what's best for their development because they live there. If that is true, why are residents not being invited to the table?
Thank you, Ms. Lino. Mr. Martinez.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for attending. My name is Manny Martinez. I'm from South Jamaica Houses. I represent South Jamaica Houses on the resident council for South Jamaica Houses. This issue is an issue of public safety that reflects New York City. NYCHA, too much times New York City itself tends to separate NYCHA as an isolated population that they can ignore, of which the 14th Amendment does not apply, of which that, people use administrative policies to neglect our actual right to safety. When in November of last year, NYCHA's Public Safety Department made a cross-jurisdictional claim in regards to NYPD and the district attorneys, something that is irrelevant to NYCHA in the sense of its responsibilities, saying what those agencies will not do. We're at the point now that New York City is arrogant and blatant in its disregard for a resident population that is predominantly Black and Hispanic and larger in population size than 99% of the cities in this country. This is a massive abuse. Where NYCHA's responsibility in this is to talk about its responsibility in maintaining public safety, signage, communication, safety protocols, using their own controlled internal cameras, and things of that nature. Ensuring restricted areas are properly signed that can now pass on to the other agencies who are responsible for enforcement. And lastly, this is New York City. New York City itself needs to be the one who's pressing charges here that does not allow for judges to then dismiss these trespassing charges that then begin to escalate into bigger and more significant and very dangerous and hazardous conditions, from rapes to robberies to deaths. In my development alone, over the last 2 years, we've experienced close to 12 deaths, one jumper, because of New York City's collective denial that we are citizens because we live in public housing. We demand for this to stop because there's nothing here that allows for this to keep going on unless you continue to ignore your responsibilities in your employed positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We now have Ms. Tibbs from the remote participation. Ms. Tibbs?
Good afternoon. As I have stated on many occasions, neither myself nor my residents feel safe nor secure living in public housing, and never have, but it's gotten increasingly worse. Regarding homeless coming into our buildings, it is a huge problem up here. I live in a scattered site with 36 brownstones that have never had cameras. Last year, I got attacked by a homeless person when I was trying to exit out of my building because we have never not only had cameras, but we couldn't even get a simple reflective mirror put in the lobby so we could see who was hiding behind our staircases. I was told NYCHA had no money, but yet NYCHA's number one goal at safety and security seems to be focused around Amazon lockers, which makes me to question, how much money are you guys making off of the sale of all these Amazon lockers being placed on public property? Because I can get a call from safety and security regarding lockers or regarding me trying to sign up my seniors for resident watch and put their lives at risk, rather than come up with a solution of something as simple as a reflective mirror, which I've got them now. But it took me to get attacked in my own building for NYCHA to step up and give us a simple piece of glass or a hubcap that we could see who was in our lobbies with. Also regarding my assault, I was deeply upset at the lack of urgency regarding my attack, which now the case has been officially closed because there had to, since we don't have cameras, we had to rely on the private building, which actually sees and monitors all incomings and outgoings of my building, and the footage would have needed to be pulled. However, I was told by the precincts that NYCHA, which would be safety and security, never made the request in a timely manner to get a copy of the footage. So after a month of not hearing from them, they taped over it and my case has been closed with no resolution of what the homeless person looked like entering my building because nobody asked for a request. 2 weeks ago, I had a homeless person that got into one of my brownstones in the evening, and instead of dog feces, I had human feces all over the top floor where an elderly senior lived by herself. Feces everywhere. Again, safety and security has said on many occasions how they're walking through developments looking for the homeless, but as recently as last week, News 12 did a whole story about Mauritania air rights that had homeless living everywhere in the buildings, in the slop sinks, in the hallways, in front of people's apartment doors. So my question is, and always will be, when are we going to start to rely or start feeling the the littlest bit of safe and secure in our buildings? Because if we don't need an Amazon locker, no one seems to care. I'd really love to know the answer to that. How much money are you guys making off these lockers? Because that should be maybe in special projects or another division other than safety and security. As a former NYPD chief, I would think that safety and security would be paramount over lockers. I yield.
Thank you, Ms. Tibbs. We're now going to have time for the various city agencies and guests who have come here today to provide opening remarks, 3 minutes for each of the remarks. We'll start, Chief Secreto, with you, and then hope to go around to NYPD, the DA's offices, the Department of Homelessness Services, and others. Thank you. Chief Secreto, please go ahead.
Okay. The lockers that you referenced, that was brought to our attention because there were a lot of thefts, needless to say, a lot of thefts throughout the city, and that was a way of protecting residents from their packages getting stolen. That's how that came about. There is an agreement with Amazon, which I'm not privy to, that they do contribute to the development for having the lockers in that particular development. But again, that came about as a way of protecting people's packages or whatever. And in the 3 or so years that we've been doing that, it's been 1.5 million packages delivered that otherwise some of them would have been stolen in 123 developments, and that's in a 3-year period. The other thing, Mr. Gross, I appreciate your this image that you gave. And I don't know that the fire department is responsible for a lot of the damage to the doors, but they do on occasion. That would be something that we spoke about this in the past that might help us to prevent that type of damage. One of the things that does cause vandalism is the intercom's not working, so people break the doors or whatever. We're working on that. And the other thing that you brought up was having the parts. So there's a development in Queens right now that they're waiting on a part that has to come from the West Coast or something because we don't have that part in stock in New York. So to your point, they should have these parts available so that when there's a breakage or whatever, we don't have to wait for a part to come from Wisconsin or something. So that's a good point. The other thing that you mentioned, there are no trespassing signs in the buildings, in the lobbies, and on roof landings as well. Big burgundy signs or whatever, they are still in most of the developments. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, and I'm not taking credit for crime reduction don't get me wrong, in housing. But right now, the crime is down 10% in housing, 223 crimes. And again, I'm not taking any credit, that's the police department. But what I am gonna say is we collaborate with the police department at a high, at a high level. And I think, that since I'm in this position. So one of the things I think that we talked about is the homeless. And that's a big problem. I was at an event last week, Brooklyn DA's office, and that was one of the items that came up, and Mr. Martinez brought it up as well. And we have the people in the room from the DA's office. Maybe we could put our heads together as to how we could better address it, because it is a bad problem throughout the city. So what we do right now, and again, it's the last 4 years that we signed an MOU, memorandum of understanding, with the police department, with homeless services, and NYCHA, and we go into the developments, and it's not a lot, but it's something. So we could, three days a week, we go into various developments that are given to us, that they either have a homeless issue, homeless problem, and we go and walk the development Tuesday, Wednesday, and in Queens, either Thursday or Friday, and we offer, and it's a humanitarian approach. We offer either shelter, homeless service, shelter, I'm losing my chain of thought. Homeless, mental health, drug treatment, and hospital. Sorry about that. And more often than not, people turn us down, and then we escort them out of the building. We leave, maybe an hour later they come back, and that's a problem. So it came up at the meeting last week in Brooklyn. Is there something we can do? Can we target certain developments that are problematic? Some are more problematic than others. Can we target this particular place? There are some homeless people, unhoused, that we see them every day. Every time we go, it's the same person. Can we have some kind of thing where they cannot come in the building? Or can we arrest them if they're in the building or whatever? And that's a conversation that maybe we can have with the various DA's office in here today. That's pretty much it. That is a big problem of the homeless in the building.
Thank you, Chief Secreto. So we'll hear from the other invited guests. Thank you very much. We'll start with Mr. Gottesman at NYPD. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I just want to address a few points that were brought up, but before I do that, I just really want to thank the tenant advocates. I mean this wholeheartedly, this is not lip service. Most of us are compensated for our time. We're here, this is our job. My understanding is you are not. You're doing this because you're trying to make things better in your development and across the rest of public housing. That is tremendous. I agree with just about everything everyone said. I know we have to take turns and we have to wait. So I just want to address and kind of go into the details. Interior patrols, they used to be called vertical patrols. They are still going on. They have been increasing every year since 2020. I have data that goes back even further. Back in 2010, there was a class action lawsuit called Davis, right? It took about 3 years to reach a settlement, and as a result of that settlement, a new procedure was developed along with plaintiffs' attorneys, the NYPD, and most importantly, our federal monitor. We have our own in the NYPD. That patrol guide procedure is available on the internet. I definitely encourage folks to look it up. It's Patrol Guide Procedure 21260. And what that did, when it was published around 2013, it limited the scope of what the NYPD was allowed to do. Now, we still make trespass arrests. We've made 614 for the year to date in 2026. That's about a 61% increase from this time last year. But 21260 carves out exceptions that never existed before that. So in the past, if we found somebody, say, on the rooftop or another unauthorized location, it was an automatic arrest. That's not the case anymore, right? We have to prove that they knew they weren't allowed to be there, or there has to be adequate signage, which in most buildings there are, until it gets defaced, but in most buildings there are adequate signage. So that prohibits us from making an automatic arrest. Now, if they're not in an unauthorized location, which most of the building is not unauthorized, right? Common areas are authorized. So we have to ask a series of 3 questions that have to be satisfied. It's in the procedure. Do you live here? Are you visiting someone who lives here? Do you have any legitimate business here? Now, if the individual or individuals say no to each one of those, then we can make an arrest. If not, then it becomes sort of like a standoff. And in each one of those arrest situations, there's a form that we have to fill out for the district attorney's office. It's basically an investigation form. Where did we see them? How long did we observe them for? What did they say to us? What did we say to them? And all of this is on body-worn camera. But the arrests are being made. Now, leading into homeless, we understand it is a major, major concern, like the good chief said, he was my boss in all full disclosure years ago in the NYPD. Wonderful person to work for, by the way. We do 3 nights a week in companion with Department of Homeless Services and NYCHA. That helps us a lot. When we have NYCHA with us, we don't have to ask the 3 questions. The landlord standing next to us, if they tell us this person doesn't live here and they have no business here, we want them out, they have to leave. The law does not distinguish ever between what we call a homeless person, sometimes unhoused, and someone who has a residence, whether it's in NYCHA or outside of NYCHA. We can never ever say, as a police department, you're homeless, you have to leave. It's not allowed. But we understand the fear of having to step over someone sleeping in the hallway, leaving to work early in the morning and seeing people out, laid out in the lobby, in the staircase. We completely understand that. I want you to know these initiatives are continuing, and that's just with NYCHA and Department of Homeless Services. We have interior patrols going on all the time. We're on schedule to complete 150,000 of these, all on body-worn camera. They are happening. I review dozens and dozens a week. In those videos, we encounter what looks like somebody hanging out, whether they appear to be what we call homeless, it doesn't matter. Sometimes someone who has a residence could be much more dangerous hanging out in NYCHA than someone who's just looking to sleep off a night out of the cold. So we don't make that distinction. If they don't belong there, they're not supposed to be there, because they could be up to something much worse than just trying to sleep. As far as, as far as the door locks, Mr. Gross, you hit it right on the head. Door locks are an issue. We do field reports. Obviously, if we catch somebody vandalizing the door, they are arrested for criminal mischief. I'd like to see more prosecutions. There's cameras. It's a felony, Class E felony, to break a door lock, and possibly a Class D if it's more than $1,500, which I believe they are. That's a serious charge. I would like to have more prosecutions, meaning more complaints of broken doors. Go to the video. If it's somebody that management could recognize, we will make the arrest. The detective squad will come by and make the arrest, and hopefully they'll be prosecuted. But that is the key to keeping homeless folks out of the buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Geisman. Why don't we turn it over to the respective DA's offices for comment, introductory comments, before we have Q&A. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna introduce my colleague, or more so the supervisor, executive assistant district attorney, Teresa Shanahan, who's in charge of intake and public policy. And I think the question in respect was, what is NYCHA's responsibility as far as enforcement for trespassing? And she's gonna speak on exactly what the Queens District Attorney's Office does with trespassing in its entirety for the Queens County. So it's NYCHA involved, but also letting you know what we do in general.
Thank you, Ms. Shanahan.
Thank you. So, with the DA's office, we are dependent on the arrest that NYPD makes. If there's no arrest, there's nothing we could do. We start at the arrest. So, and like I said, the intake bureau handles every single crime that happens in Queens where there's an arrest, goes through my bureau. Brooklyn has it, Manhattan has it, we all have the same bureau, we have different names for it. And what we do is if there is a complaint, and if we can prove it, it goes through. The problem is, with the way our laws are, we can never ask for bail on that. So the second they get before a judge, they are going to be released. And I'm sure a lot of those times they go right back to where they were. So once the arrest comes, we do prosecute them. Like Queens always prosecutes them, we don't let them walk, and we will do that. And just to piggyback on what the officer said, especially with housing, and we've had many of these cases. You're in a house, the officer says, hey, do you live here? No, but I'm visiting Joe in apartment 3D. They'll go and they'll knock on 3D's apartment, and if nobody's answers, we can't prove that there was no Joe in 3D. So it's kind of a catch-22. So we will prosecute any case that comes through, and we always will try to do it. The homeless is a different story, that's really not in our purview, but if anybody has any questions later, absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon. Ms. Strikers, Santiago.
Thank you. Estelle Strikers from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office with my colleague Julia Mienza. Thank you for convening this, and thank you for all of your really important input and for holding us accountable to do our jobs. I would just like to add on top of sort of the specifics about trespassing, that the work that needs to be done, and I think it was mentioned earlier, the words collaboration, coordination, working together, and the work really happens in between these big meetings, right? This is really important that we're all here together, but the work happens in between. And that's why we have folks on our team in the Community Partnerships Unit that report to Julia, who go to all of the NYCHA Tenant Association meetings, who work really closely with Chief Secreto to make sure that our office, particularly our intake unit, our ECAB unit, is aware of cases coming in and that we're communicating with PD on what we need for a strong case. And we're doing that all the time. The communication is ongoing with the chief. Additionally, we've been talking a lot about homelessness, and we work closely with our colleagues from DHS to ensure that we're figuring out what is the best strategy to address the people that are trespassing because they are unhoused. Because to the previous point from the Queens District Attorney's Office, these are charges that are very low charges, and so they're going to get back out. And so the solution of having them arrested and released, arrested possibly sent to Rikers for a period of time, that's not gonna make the person better, and it's not gonna prevent them from coming back to your places, to your homes. And so what's the long-term strategy? But we don't do it in silos. We have to work together, and I will say, particularly again with Chief Secreto and all the work that he puts into this, and with the Department of Homeless Services, we've been really coordinating around this issue and focused on NYCHA, because I agree with you, I've been doing this work for a long time, and we have to make sure that the NYCHA communities are getting the same attention that the other communities are getting, and not, to your point, not separate them. So we're available, we focus on Manhattan, and I know my colleagues in other the district attorney's offices do similar things, but we have to coordinate between the different agencies, and that's our focus in our unit, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Traeger. We also have Ms. Chavez from the Brooklyn DA. Thank you.
Melinda Alexis Hayes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm Special Counsel Nicole Chavis is Chief of Staff. I just wanted to share, as you already heard, we had a meeting last week Tuesday with various residents. We invited all TA presidents from Brooklyn to this meeting. And out of that meeting are two important key factors that I just wanted to share, is a commitment to having several of these meetings in Brooklyn so that we can address these issues. And as you heard, homelessness or the unhoused in these developments was a big topic that came up in our pre-planning, talking to residents at PSA meetings, and also it was raised during the meeting. Other safety concerns were in connection with the unhoused was the spraying of cameras that would also help in deterring the unhoused from coming in and also in prosecuting those cases. And one of the commitments from DA Gonzalez was, if there's a support letter that's needed for you all to write to anyone to expedite the process of getting cameras, getting additional locks, reach out to us. Our number for Brooklyn, I hope everyone has it. If you live in Brooklyn, our action center is 718-250-2340. And let us know what it is you need that we can potentially help you with. But also reach out to your TA presidents. Every one of them should have received a letter. It was great attendance. at this meeting. And we can also connect after this meeting as well too, to make sure that I have your information, so that when we have additional meetings, everyone's involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have a representative from DHS. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. So wanted to actually elaborate off of our joint collaboration that we're having weekly with NYPD and NYCHA. One of the things that we're doing is not only are we just offering our particular shelter, our division, which is Street Homeless Solutions, we offer up Safe Haven, which is a little different and a little more appealing than traditional shelter, namely because we don't have a curfew, and we also allow for folks to have 72 hours to stay out before they come back. So that's one of the things that we also offer in addition to traditional shelter. We also assess individuals if they have mental health issues as well. And we are absolutely dedicated to making sure we figure out who folks are. So if we have a name, and if and when we have a name, if they're already attached to our contracted outreach providers, we're linking them to them. Hey, we're identifying this person. You may not be seeing them in their street location, however, they've been identified at NYCHA, so that they can follow up with the individual and offer them services and work with them long term.
Thank you very much. We also have some invited guests online. I believe there's a representative from Chairman Banks's office of the City Council Public Housing Committee. Please go ahead. Yeah, they seem to have stepped away. Okay, well, thank you all for your opening remarks. Oh, I'm sorry, we also have a representative from the Davis Settlement Community Liaison, so please, sir, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Again, I'm filling in for Jermaine Thompson. Just to give a bit of a brief overview of what my office does, we are the feedback team as it relates to stop, question, and frisk. So obviously it relates to the Davis case. What we are supposed to do is seek, receive, and organize feedback, whether it be questions, comments, concerns, lived experience, witness experience, as it relates to levels of encounters with NYPD. Again, I'm the Bronx organizer, but I have my fellow organizers in the back here, and we are more than happy to connect with you and share more.
Thank you very much. I just received word Chair Banks is tied up and needs a few minutes, so we'll proceed now to a Q&A session. We'll start where we left off with Ms. Tibbs. If you could start off with the first set of questions, and then we'll go in reverse order of the remarks to direct your questions to the city agencies who are here today. So please, Ms. Tibbs, go ahead.
Yes, again, I'd like to know, what is the plan on making things better for the residents? I suggest strongly that safety and security not be in charge of Amazon lockers. They waste entirely too much time promoting this when they should be working on coming up with a plan to keep us safe. I don't see why that can't happen.
May I jump in really quickly?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Hi, Ms. Tibbs. I just want to answer your other question, that the Amazon lockers generate approximately $425,000 in revenue last year for NYCHA, which is a nice sum. That money does go back individually to the developments, so I don't have the breakdown per se, but since there's 123 different developments, it would be, give or take, 425,000 divided by the 123. Again, based on the number of lockers at each site. So it's a good amount as a lump sum, but it's a small amount to the individual property. It does not go back to the Office of Safety and Security. It goes back to the property to supplement their budget for whatever they need.
That's not my issue. My issue is NYCHA has enough enough departments, enough VPs that it could be assigned to a different department other than safety and security. I get more calls from safety and security asking me, do I want Amazon lockers, which, as a matter of fact, my supermarket down the street has them inside their store. I don't have the capacity for lockers. I need cameras. I was told I was going to get cameras. My meetings have been canceled regarding cameras. Why? I assume because we're being put now placed in a pack. I guess our camera budget is no longer existing. I don't know. I haven't heard back from Capitol. But again, you guys are so top heavy with VPs and senior advisors. This department regarding Amazon lockers would be best served in another division, and let safety and security focus on keeping tenants safe and secure, not Amazon lockers.
I understand those concerns. The two are not mutually exclusive. The Amazon Locker program does not cost us anything really to run. It's site visits. We coordinate with
It
Amazon.
takes up
So it
time
doesn't
from
take
safety
that
and
much
security.
time. And, but I understand your concern, and the Office of Safety and Security won't be asking you again if you're interested in the program.
No, I want them to keep me safe, not promote lockers.
Understood.
Thank you, Ms. Tibbs. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, and I want to thank everyone for your comments and well received. And I want to just shout out right now, I think it's Meredith, Queens, Manhattan, and Brooklyn for showing up. I hope that the Federal Monitor can send a "We missed you" letter to Bronx and Staten Island. We did miss them, right? I do want to bring attention and ask questions on several things regarding one, the NYPD. So crime is down because a lot of NYPD officers refuse to take police reports in matters when they're supposed to. Crime is also down because we have officers who arrive to the scene and tell not only the resident but the employees, stop calling us. Why do you keep calling us? This is something that we've evidenced. Crime is down not because it's not happening, it's down because it's not being reported. We can no longer stick with these statistics to camouflage the deficiencies that we are experiencing at the ground level. One, that needs to be engaged immediately. No, we do not have enough signs in our developments. Our staircases are bare. There are no signs in our staircases. We have people who sleep in front of apartment doors. There's no signage in the hallways. We need sufficient signs. To reinforce Ms. Tibbs' statement, we don't need public safety to start, to handle a revenue arm for NYCHA. We need them to ensure intercoms, signage, and that the relationship and accountability with its partners in New York City is being maintained. But we need them to have a firm policy. The other thing with with our district attorneys, and we truly gratefully, I understand the fact that it starts at the arrest. But we do also have a lot of judges dismissing this, where they don't even prosecute. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe if there's an aggrieved party in this, right, where somebody says, I want to press charges, this person trespassed, that there is some liability there for the judge to enact, to take action. If we are not engaging in that process and allowing for, these instances to, if they only become prosecuted if they are attached to a drug charge or some other bigger crime, then we're missing the point. Lastly, and I give my empathy to everyone in the city who's going through challenges, but when you are in public housing, and NYCHA has a policy that identifies public housing as private property, you're not homeless in our basements, you're not homeless in our staircases, you're not homeless on our roofs, you're trespassing. You're homeless in the Central Park, which is a public space, or in the playgrounds that are public spaces. You're not homeless in our homes. They wouldn't be homeless in your backyard, they wouldn't be homeless in your front yard, and they wouldn't be homeless inside your home. And so don't use that narrative to downplay the circumstance that we are experiencing. We see people being pulled out of our basements and our staircases in stretchers, dead. That's in front of children and family, and you have working mothers and fathers and families who have to leave early in the morning who feel terrified because there's a population that's unchecked that have been enabled by New York City to position themselves in our homes. So NYCHA currently right now, because of NYCHA's deficient actions and lack of collaboration, NYCHA has now become the second shelter for New York City. This needs to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Does someone want to address Mr. Martinez's comments? Okay. No, Mr. Gross, we're gonna go to Ms. Lino and then take your questions. Ms. Lino, please. Do you have a question for any of the participants?
You just asked, is anybody gonna respond to Manny, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so,
I'll respond.
Please, Ms. Stryker.
First of all, I do hear you. In terms of trespassing as a crime, again, we will prosecute if somebody is arrested for trespassing and it meets kind of the legal guidelines that we have to follow in our office. And I'll let Queens jump in, especially in Executive 80A if I say anything off here. But it's still a low-level crime, right? So the person is going to get relief. There's different definitions of prosecution. Like, we're still prosecuting the person if we can't ask for bail and they get out. The case, unless they plead guilty, which they have a right to when they go in front of a judge, if they don't plead guilty, the case will continue. And that's prosecuting. So just because I think sometimes and I'm not saying that you don't know this, but I think sometimes when we're out in the community, people think that because somebody's back out, we're not prosecuting. Prosecution doesn't necessarily mean the person is in jail during the case, right? So just want to be really clear about that. What you said about what folks are dealing with in terms of unhoused people being in your home space, I don't have an answer to that other than, yes, we as a city, my office, all the office, we have to, continue to work together and do better, because you are right. You should not be experiencing that. That's all I can say to that. I can tell you that my team, myself, I know DHS, that we are working hard to address this, both for your community and all communities. I do want to say, in terms of the data on crime reduction, I'm not going to speak about the data. I am going to say that not this issue, but other crimes, for example, gun violence and which has also been a big focus of our office, and I'm sure other offices, it has gone down statistically, but any violence is not, like, we don't want anybody shooting or being shot. That's the goal. But statistically that has gone down. And we hear from some communities that they feel it, others are not yet and still want more. But as those types of crimes can go down, then we can also pivot and focus on other things like shoplifting and trespassing and things like that. And that's where we're headed now. So it's always been a priority, but it was a priority next to too much gun violence happening in East Harlem and the Lower East Side, and a big focus on that in Washington Heights, so from Manhattan's perspective. So I just want to tell you, I can't speak to some of the things that you're speaking about, but I think we're all hearing you, and you're right. We need to do better.
Mr. Martinez, if I may, so could you just, what you're saying is obviously comes to the core of why we've called this meeting. And so what happens? Like, you describe somebody is coming out of their apartment, a homeless person, they have to step over them to get out of their apartment, they're terrified. They call the police, what happens? Because I think you mentioned that sometimes the police won't respond, and like, what is sort of the experience and sort of what happens when that, because I know, because something like that happened in my building and I know what happened, and that person never came back. And so I really want to understand like exactly what happens.
So, here's a specific example. Right, so someone tried somebody's door, had them on camera, and then police comes maybe about 5 hours after they were called, and then they say, well, no, we're not gonna give you a police report. Or they just don't show up. Or they'll tell, like, people on my board who have come back and told me, they'll tell them, like, we're not doing this. This is not our job to do this, and they'll, tell them to leave, and they leave, and then 10 minutes later they come back. We have a population that feels so enabled and secure that they are going to the laundromat from our basements in our roofs. They're going shopping, they're folding their clothes. we were able to secure $1.5 million for cameras from the Queensborough President's Office, because when we did a walk, he found clothes folded up neatly and placed in several different basements. So the enforcement part, right, that is known to be very absent. And so we have no recourse. We have no, I'm starting to tell now my tenants in my community, not even my tenants, but the employees that work at the development that we live at, that we need to now escalate to the sergeant. We need to put in a whole new system now to now ensure that the police are providing services that they're supposed to, right? So when somebody says, no, I'm not gonna give you a police report, then now we need to call the sergeant, right? And then we need to escalate that, maybe start putting some reports to CCRB, even though some of these cases won't be investigated by the CCRB, but they will be documented. So now we can start, engaging in our statistics of experience by using this method, right? So we're exploring that because we have very little otherwise. Lastly, we need to engage, so this is just generally speaking to public housing residents across the city and to NYCHA, we need to engage in our right to policy making with NYCHA. NYCHA has effectively created very concerning policies that has reduced our federal right, federal statutes that says that we have the right to participate in policy making, and we have been excluded from that. And so we need to re-engage in that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of disappointed to not see the NYCHA Compliance Department, which is a department created under the judicial, the judicial settlement. We need to see them more often in these proceedings, because these are regulatory matters. Thank you.
And I just wanted to.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez. I just wanted to respond to your question. I think some of the hesitancy to respond immediately is because doesn't fall within our jurisdiction as to what it is that we do. And I just wanted to add as well, in terms of what the judges do, of course, it's a judge's court. We're gonna make our arguments, but the final decision is made by the judge. But my ask is for anyone, if you were to ever learn of these situations from the past or anything moving forward, and hopefully it does not happen moving forward, reach out to the local Brooklyn District Attorney's Office or your District Attorney's Office, I know you're in Queens, so that we can try to figure out why the decision was what it was, and making sure that we're all in alignment as to what the facts are, as to what happened with the arrest, what happened in court, so that, we can actually better serve you.
Thank you.
But to that,
Please go ahead with the follow-up.
What we experienced though, and this is not something, and just in brief to that, right, what we experienced though is this separation of responsibilities, which I understand, you guys are not doing the enforcement on the ground, and, we're talking about the police, but when we experience these things with the police, well, if we report it to the DA or to outside agencies, they kind of, step away from it and say, that's not that's not for us to do. And so, we don't have that leverage or that support.
Again, I'll just say, reach out to the DA's office, because I'll speak for my office and everybody can speak for their own. We do have our own internal investigators. We do take complaints from community residents. Of course, NYPD is first, but it's very important to reach out to everyone and anyone. Don't think that you can't reach out to us, and continuously call us with dates and times as to what's happening, not just with trespassing, but if you believe that there are other criminal activities that are happening on your properties, drug dealing, reach out to us and we can build our own internal investigation on case.
Thank you. Ms. Shanahan, you had a response as well.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, we have the same community partnership, so if you do encounter something like that, everything is on body worn camera and we can see the body worn camera. And we have a very good relationship with all of our precincts, so if you're doing that, experiencing that, if you reach out to him.
We have a relationship.
We could also reach out to the precinct, say, hey, Officer Smith's body worn camera from Tuesday at 10:20, can you take a look at it? And we generally get a good response from them then, and we could do that.
Thank you.
So,
And shout out to Mr. Palacios.
Yes, I was gonna add on to
Queen
that,
State,
yeah.
Queen State.
Me and you have a great relationship, Mr. Martinez, and I come to your meetings monthly, so if there's ever an issue or a resident situation in any way, shape, or form, there are times that sometimes it doesn't fall into our jurisdiction. Me and you have close and extensive conversations about this is something that we can do versus what we can't, but the number one thing is figuring out what and who the entity is. As I said earlier, just to make sure I put it back on record, my name is Marlon Palacios Jr., Senior Community Coordinator at the Queens County District Attorney's Office, and my job is to provide you guys any information to the best of my ability on who is the right person to help you figure out how to get to the bottom of your situation. So, if I am not the right person, I'll do my best to point you in the right direction to the best of my ability. So as you know, Mr. Martinez, whatever you got going on, I will help you figure it out, even if it's not us. We will figure it out as a unit, because that's the purpose of us being on these calls, in these meetings, in these spaces, to know what is the resource that we can point you in the right direction on to provide what you need to get what is for the community, to make sure we take care of the community, because that's the number one resource and that's the number one purpose of us being here today.
Thank you, Mr. Pulaski. Ms. Stryker, you have a comment, and then we'll have
Yes.
a question from Ms. Lino.
Just well said, Queens and Brooklyn, and ditto for Manhattan, and I'm gonna have Julia give her name and contact information for all the reasons that you just heard.
Yeah, if folks wanna write it down, 917-690-1282, for Manhattan, and happy to obviously make sure my team is available to everyone, as I know they do attend many meetings and answer a lot of questions, but, second, the great comments from the Queens DA's office as well.
Thanks very much.
917-690-1282, and I also have quite a few cards, happy to provide more information after the meeting.
Great, thanks. And just for the record, this video will be posted on the website if anyone needs to listen again in for the phone number. Ms. Lino, you're next up for a question.
So thank you everyone who answered Manny. Thank you, I appreciate that. So I just wanted to go back, you mentioned that there was a meeting for the TAs in the Brooklyn district. So when it comes to several tenant association, they are not sharing the information. So my question to you is, people that are outside the tenant association, are they able to attend these meetings? Because it's not fair that the residents who live there don't know this information.
Yeah, so the goal is for the presidents to share, but we will be having more meetings, and no one will be not allowed into the meeting. So we'll connect to make sure that you have the information for our upcoming meetings, and so that we can have everyone involved, because the goal is safety, everybody has to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, because not only for myself, because I go to a lot of different meetings and I go to different developments, and I want to make sure that even if you don't have to be on the board, and I always keep saying, a title don't mean nothing. Show me who you are after your title. Once you come out of your job, who are you?
Right, so
Yeah.
the invites were sent to the presidents, to the presidents, but also was announced at PSA meetings as well too, to make sure we didn't miss anyone. But we will connect after this meeting.
Thank you, we definitely will connect.
Thank you, Ms. Lino. Mr. Gross.
My colleague, Mr. Martinez, is right with everything what he's saying. I just wanna say, in Williams Plaza, we have packed developments, we have cameras in the lobby, in the staircase, on every single floor. We have over 30 residents call and create a report for stealing packages. We have the footage, we have the evidence ready to give for the NYPD. We have our own security personnel monitoring our development, retired NYPD officers. We have all information. Guess what? They closed all the cases. The NYPD closed all the cases. I went down to them and tell them why you closed the cases. We have a meeting, all the residents are saying, Mr. Gross, you always say, create a police report. They're waiting hours to create a police report. A day later, the case is closed. When the residents is calling the officers, 911, they have to fight with the police officers to create a report. They don't want to do a police report. That's number two. Number three, we was having a break-in in Independence Towers in the mail room. Probably damaged $1,000 or $1,500. Bust the doors, steal mail. Our security personnel was calling the PSA 3 to create a report. They don't want to come. It's a waste of your time. Since our security, we were saying, you know what? If you say 3, you don't have to come, you're gonna call the 9-0. You're gonna call FIOs, they will come. They show up in the 15, 20 minutes later. So right now, the issue is, number 1, you have to wait hours they should respond. Number 2, even they're gonna respond, they are saying for our residents, nothing gonna happen, it's a waste of your time. They disencouraging the residents create a report. Even when we are saying by the meetings, residents create a report, we have the cameras, we have the footage. This is what our security is saying by the meetings. Guess what? They're closing the reports. So I'm planning to have a meeting next week, Wednesday, and call back NYPD to open up like 30 reports back. We have the evidence, the information is here, we have the residents, we have the footage. Why are they closing up the reports? Just the numbers should look better, the crime is down, that's how the residents is feeling. And this is happening a long time, but the last couple of months is really increasing. And I want to talk about the no trespassing signs. NYCHA has no trespassing signs in the building. This sign is on the gate. When you cross the street, you see the sign. It's right before you enter even the NYCHA property. That is important. A sign for no trespassing should be right before you enter the NYCHA property. In every single alley next to our playground is always this sign. So nobody's saying, oh, we never see the signs. This is an outside sign, not an inside sign. When I have a comment on the Davis, I think it's going to be very helpful if you send out the email to all TA presidents, try to get the comments on the issue of safety security, and see if the Davis settlement was positive or negative effect of to our residents into our developments. And one more comment is enforcing what Martinez was saying. We have to have NYPD enforce more in NYCHA, and the local property managers, they know residents, what the residents are doing, or feces or graffiti. They have to call in the residents and keep them more accountable. A lot of times right now management saying, nah, nothing gonna happen anyways, why I should fight with the residents for my safety, and I'm doing nothing. So I think it's have to be a joint combination, NYCHA, local property managers with NYPD working together to enforce the law. And probably we will see a big change in our developments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Officer, did you want to respond to that?
Yes, regarding the refusal to take reports, it's a very serious accusation, and the good news is when an officer responds to, I'm assuming it's a 911 call, correct?
Yeah.
When they respond to a 911 call, a record is created. Okay? There's no way to delete that record, it exists. The officer must activate his or her body-worn camera upon arrival, in theory on the way to, but because they're driving, when they step out of that car or they walk down the block on foot, they have to activate. Everything is recorded and it stays there, even if nothing comes out of that conversation, no arrest, it will stay there a minimum of 3 years. Okay, if there's an arrest or something else, it'll be there pretty much forever. I need specifics, but I'd like to connect with you. If that is what's happening, that's serious misconduct. If you want to report and there's the allegation of a crime and they are the complainant, meaning they have the right to make the report, not somebody told me something, because that's not a complainant, then the report should have been taken. But I need specifics, right? Anecdotal stories, and I'm hearing things, I can't really act on that other than to maybe start doing some education amongst the PSA. But I'm very disturbed to hear that PSA 3, which is a very good PSA with a really good CO, is perhaps not taking reports. That's very disturbing, not just to me, but to anybody hearing this. That should not be happening if it is in fact happening. So I want to get specifics, I need dates and times, and I have to check cameras.
What is with closing the reports?
If there's a report taken, but it sounds like there is no report. But if there is a report taken, so I'm not sure if there is or there isn't, because I'm hearing there isn't. But
Two issues.
Two issues. So one is no reports are being taken. But the second issue is when they take a report, they're closing it. Okay. So if we have nothing further that can happen, the officer is allowed to close it. It's called to patrol, meaning the patrol response could close something. Camera footage A known complainant and property taken is an active investigation. That should not be closed. Now, it could be that it was left open to the precinct detective squad, the 9-0 precinct in your case, or wherever the development is. That squad could close it if they exhaust all leads. But if they have somebody identified, that should be an arrest. And it's just a matter of picking the person up, arresting that person. So that's a separate issue. I don't represent the detective bureau, but I'm in the police department, I could reach out. But I want to find out first, step one, are they not taking the report? Step two, if they are taking it, why is it being closed to patrol? And if it's not, why is the detective squad not picking up a identified individual? You'll be shocked how easy it is to find somebody on a video. It's not difficult.
Thank you, officer. Thank you, Mr. Gross. We just have 2 minutes left, but Mr. Hall, please, I want to make sure you have a chance to ask your question.
Well, I've been quiet, but I want to go back to the smaller crimes and the accountability in the DA's offices. It seems like it's difficult. Some of the accusations that were mentioned regarding smaller crimes, what could be done in order to get, I guess, more recognition or noticeability to some of these smaller crimes, the accountability has? Can you transcend the laws, or what could be done? This is not hurricane, but I'm just saying, can you find what could be done to create more accountability for wrongdoing on those lesser crimes?
When we say lesser crimes, it's their crimes are delineated into felonies versus misdemeanors. Misdemeanors is anything under a year in jail, felonies anything more.
Misdemeanors versus violations, I think we're really talking about here.
Violations are.
Yeah, they are what they are, and I get that. But I'm saying in order to get proper recognition regarding some of the circumstances that exist on low-level crimes.
On the low-level crimes, what we try to do is we try to aggregate them. We'll try and string a lot of them together to create more of a pattern. You didn't just trespass once, you trespassed 1, 2, 3, 4, to make the judge take notice of it. So, because that's the thing, is when you get in front of a judge, it's in front of the judge, and I hate to cop out and say we can't do anything then. It's hard to do it, and it's hard to have judges do something they can't legally do, and that's the problem, is every crime has something attached to it. So you could actually have a lower level crime, you could plead guilty to it, and the judge could say, okay, time served, you can walk out now. And that's it.
Okay.
We could ask for something more, and that's what we generally do, we'll try and put conditions on it. We'll let you take a lesser crime, but you're gonna do community service, or you're gonna pay a fine, or we're gonna order you to stay away from that place. So that's what we try to do, and in some cases too, we also try to get the person help, because sometimes just putting them in jail is gonna do nothing. But if I can get you into drug treatment, maybe that would do it. If I can get you in touch with DHS and homeless services, that may help. So that's like another part of what we do in all the DA's offices, we all have this. So we try to stop them from doing it again. How are we gonna do that? Is it a drug treatment program? Is it going and scrubbing graffiti? Is it going and cleaning toilets in corrections? Kinda like that one, but it teaches a lesson, where as opposed to just putting somebody in jail or just letting them walk out does nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Thank you, Mr. Hall. We're now at time for the meeting, but we do have a resident invited guest who made the trip down here and has one last question. Please go ahead and please introduce yourself.
Sure. Reverend Kevin McCall, I'm the founder of the Crisis Action Center. My question is to the district attorney's office and also to the police department. I get a lot of calls to my office regarding safety and also to NYCHA regarding the homelessness. There's a lot of homelessness safety concerns in about 7 developments regarding these vacancy apartments where people are homeless individuals are occupying their apartments. When police are called, police come, they leave, the apartment is, NYCHA is contacted, the people leave, and the apartment is again broken into where a homeless individual is staying at these several apartments. So that's for NYCHA in terms of what is happening there. The second question is more so for the district attorney's office. I noticed that we have a safety concern regarding the gangs that's in our developments. I saw the district attorney stand with the police commissioner about 3 times in the last month regarding the gangs that's in our NYCHA developments. What is being done to be proactive? We shouldn't be seeing all of these things that are happening in terms of the gangs in our community, but what is being done in terms of safety with the tenant associations, with the resident associations, with the tenants, for them to be able to be safe in their own development after, even before the fact and also after the fact as well regarding these gang individuals. So most of these buildings are in NYCHA, they are buildings against buildings. It's the left side versus the right side, the back versus the front. And we see good things that the district attorney's office throughout the city is doing, but we want to be able to see proactive responses in terms of these gang and takedowns in terms of that aspect.
So I just wanted to share, and I'm kind of repeating myself because I know the DA, Eric Gonzalez, shared this during some of the most recent press conferences regarding the takedowns that have happened. But we do have a project called Project Redirect and Restore, where we are meeting with young people who have been exposed to gang activities, but they are not the targets. And the goal is to have, they have mentoring sessions, they have mental health sessions, there are a lot of different discussions in order for them to not pursue any type of gang activity. And also it helps in terms of, there was a particular incident to ensure that there's not retaliation. So we do have those types of programs that are happening. And just to point out some of the success rates are, we have 3 individuals who then went on to obtain college degrees at Columbia. So we are reaching out to prevent any type of future violence in our Brooklyn neighborhoods, and we are seeing some of the results. Other programming that we are doing is when we do have these takedowns, we then have meetings like we've had, and we share information so that leaders in the community know what's going to happen, that we can give them information and insight, because it is important that we target the actual active members. This is not just a takedown, it's not just a disruption of an entire development, because we understand those who are living in our NYCHA developments are hardworking Brooklyn residents, but they deserve to know information as to what is happening. So that's how we also go about preventatively before the press conference happens, so that you can know what's happening, and then thereafter having meetings, so that if you have any questions, we can then have follow-up conversations. Additional work that we are doing, like we did last week, was with our meeting with our TA residents, is answering some of the questions. And one of the questions was, how do we go about investigating our cases? So we had a presentation by the chief of our Violent Criminal Enterprises unit, which has been spearheading a lot of these investigations and these takedowns, on how it is that they develop their cases. And a lot you will see is from social media posting and other things of that nature. So we're doing the preventative work, we're doing the work that unfortunately after something happens, why it happened, how we're going about doing it, and just things that we use in order to prosecute these cases, to make sure that everyone is informed and has as much information as we can possibly share.
Is the district attorney working with NYCHA regarding any of these things? Because if you go to different developments, there are a lot of gangs that are in the development that's not known gangs, but there are gangs between different buildings. So is there any specifically working with those individuals, those TA presidents, along with other organizations as like CMS groups?
We have all those wraparound services that are part of those programs that I just mentioned in terms of mentorship. And so there's peer-to-peer counseling and conflict resolution. Everybody is included in those conversations.
And just to your question, Reverend, which I know we've spoken about before, we have started our monthly unit inspections as required by the DOI report.
Yes.
So we are checking every month all vacant units. It is a security check. If we find someone, we work with the NYPD to get them out, and then we change the cylinder again, and we secure the doors in the apartment.
Yes, but it has to be done like very a lot because it happens very frequently.
And so we encourage any residents that see something, say something, so that we can come right away, but otherwise we're coming once a month.
Thank you. I think, I know we're past time. We do have Chairman Banks of the Public Housing Committee raised his hand, just wants to make a final comment. Please go ahead, Chairman Banks.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. First of all, I want to thank the DA's office for the presentation and the conference they held last week with a host of NYCHA tenant leaders, and there were other regular leaders, tenant leaders who were there as well. I just want to kind of chime in more and focus in more on the need to reimagine what the tenant patrols look like. I know, and I've had a conversation, I think at our hearing when we spoke about the securing the vacant units in NYCHA, and when we had questions, we questioned the admin on the authority on tenant patrol and how tenant patrol look now. And, you know, we didn't get a real clear answer, but just to be proactive in my advocacy and hopefully urging the authority to really look at reimagining what tenant patrol looks like and really investing in tenant patrol, which is something that it's you know, with being boots on the ground, we're not seeing active tenant patrols. We're not seeing that support that should be there, so we can, you know, engage younger folks to get involved in tenant patrols. So I encourage the VP of Security, Mr. Secreto, to really seriously look at that and how they can revamp and really take input from the residents when it comes to reimagining how the tenant patrol should look in the NYCHA developments. And again, I want to just thank the monitor again for convening this meeting. Looking forward to working with all stakeholders to continue to advocate for public housing and make sure that we are really truly living out their will and their desires as residents. So again, thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to seeing you know, NYCHA residents and the authority at our executive budget hearing coming up on June the 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Banks, and thank you to all of the government stakeholders who came here today to provide remarks. Thank you to the residents, of course, for engaging, as usual, in this meeting so proactively. This is, of course, not the only dialogue about this topic, but we appreciate your transparency about the issues today. And I think, as Ms. Stryker said, important work obviously goes out on outside meetings like this, which we expect will continue. Again, if you weren't able to speak, particularly if you're online, we're going to hold the record open to take those comments, so please stay on so we can do that. And again, thank you everyone for your dialogue today. Our next CAC will take place again in this room on June 22nd, and we're adjourned till then. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Truly appreciate it. Thank
I don't like to walk into no room, you know. That's exactly what I was going to ask you guys for. Let me give you my just had I was last at.
So anybody who missed